Hey everyone, I'm Tharshna Patel, energy healer, medium, channel, and host of Enlighten Up. Join me for episodes each week on the Lighter Side Network as I interview intriguing guests, channel spirits, and even perform some stand-up comedy to enlighten us on living an empowered and authentic life. Are you ready? Let's raise the vibe. The Lighter Side Network, where the everyday meets the extraordinary.
Hi Lumineers, welcome to the Lighter Side Show. I'm your host, Jamie Butler, the Everyday Medium. And our guest today, Lumies, is Joy Goodman. And I don't know what the topic is. It's an utter surprise. People in the studio won't mention it. Colleen has been zippity-zippity-doo. I have no clue. But I know somehow it has to deal with joy and grace. So we're going to kind of dive into this journey together. And she's the only one privy to all the information.
Yes.
So I looked at her before cameras rolled and I said, are you about to tell me you're my birth mother or something? Like, so what's going down? She goes, so close. But before we dive into this mysterious topic today, I have some housekeeping notes. Lumineers, if you like to stay organized with everything Jamie Butler, which are the events, the Luma Summit, go over to jamiebutler.com and sign up for the newsletter. While you're there, you can look around onto the calendar, you can look at the store, the shop. We have a ton of things there. It's all put together for you. Thank you so much, Lumineers, for sending in your comments, for putting your fingers to the keyboard and just kind of letting us know what's going on and suggesting topics. You guys are awesome. This network is here to bring you the extraordinary in an everyday manner, and we really love hearing from you. And now it's time to get to Joy Goodman. Isn't that an incredible name? I told her if I had it, I would probably tattoo it on me. Is that okay, so I asked her beforehand, I was like, do you have a website or, an email that you want to give the Lumineers so they can research you, get to know you? And she even held that one quiet. So I'm going to hear this for the first time. Lumineers, as you're here listening to Joy and her story and her topic, and you want to research her, you can go to
courageouslivingwithjoy.com, and my email is joy@courageousliving.com.
I love that.
Yes, I knew you would.
Courageous living?
Yes.
Okay, I'm all
Okay.
I'm alert.
All right.
What is happening?
Well, I'm going to start with the grace part, and then the rest will fill in.
Okay.
So, a dear friend of mine dropped by your center many, many months ago in the year 2016, and she took a yoga class. And while she was here, she saw flyers for your public channeling. So last November 2016, she purchased 2 tickets online. And she told me a little bit about this public channeling. And I said, wow, that sounds really great. I'd like to experience it. So the tickets were for January, and she called me up and she said, Joy, I'd like you to go with me. So the 2 of us came to the public channeling, my first one, came into this beautiful new center. There were, I think, maybe 60 chairs, and we found 2 that were still vacant. And the channeling began. You gave the description of what to expect. So first I watched your body shift and change as the beautiful Caitlin came through with the animals. Totally. She embodied the love of animals. Then I watched the irreverent Eric come through. Oh. And you prayed that he wouldn't curse a whole lot that night because he has the tendency to do that. And I watched your body shift again. Each time you introduced, or each time an entity came through, first they did a teaching, and then you told the audience, you can ask a question if you like. So it wasn't until the 3rd being came through, Grace, that I felt this calm and this just peace and this energy of connecting with her. Her spirit felt so angelic and yet so powerful at the same time. And I could feel my heart start to race. That always happens right before my soul is going to take a step that pulls my human self along with it, before my human self knows. So I knew as I'm listening to Grace that it's very important for me to ask a question. So I wait till 3 people have had the experience of asking their question. And the protocol that you explained to us was, Jamie, me, I cannot see you using my eyes because I'm allowing Grace to come through me. So you have to yell your name, and I will focus on the direction from which the voice came, from where it came. So now it's person number 4, and I know I have to do it now. I just know I have to. So I go, Grace, Joy Goodman. And at the same time, 2 women right in front of me are yelling equally as loud. One of them...
I didn't know there was yelling.
Oh, yes. One of them, believe it or not, was my divorce mediation attorney, who I had not seen in the 11 years since that time. The other one, sitting 2 chairs beside her, was the chiropractor who treated my body while I was going through the divorce. So they are there, and they're the ones that are yelling at the same time to be recognized by Grace. So I took a deep breath, and the second yell, I let it out in the most aggressive way I've ever yelled. Joy Goodman! And Grace heard me. So she said, Joy? And I said, yes. She said, Joy, what is your question? And I said, I would like to know what my work is right now. What part of my life purpose needs expression? With everything I have ever learned, all the skills, all the knowledge I've accrued, and the gifts that I came in with, what is it that I'm to do now?
What a beautiful question.
It was a beautiful question. And you know what she said?
No, I don't
She
remember.
said, Joy, are you ready to go public? And I didn't hesitate. I remember saying, yes. And then she said, Joy, are you ready to go public now? And I could feel my heart beating faster. And I said, yes. She said, Joy, stand up.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
In
I've
the
got
midst,
goosebumps.
I had them too. So I stood up in bewilderment and I said, what is it you'd like me to say? She said, tell me who you are, what is it that you love? And I said, 23 years ago, an inner voice, when I was just starting to hear inner voices, an inner voice told me to take public speaking. And I was a teacher. I'd already taught 17 years, and I didn't need public speaking for speaking to young children. But the voice back then told me to take public speaking, and after many, many reminders, I took it. That led to a change in my life with confidence, new tools. And when I was teaching at Morningside Elementary in the gifted program, we created our own curriculum, the teachers in the gifted program. And Spirit guided me in creating a program for children. So I knew part of my purpose, continuing part, was teaching others how to fully and freely express who they were. But then I said, I'm passionate about the mind, the body, and the spirit. I'm passionate about spirituality. I'm passionate about mysticism. I'm passionate about teaching. I'm passionate about oneness. I'm passionate about learning. I'm passionate about helping people move past the fear that stops them from truly living. And all of a sudden, Grace looked at me. Well, she tried to look at me, and she said, you are meant to teach. You start teaching right now. The students will come. You will have private clients come. You are to take notes on your sessions because you will write a book. And this is not the first time I've been told this, but she said it with such force, such knowing, such directedness. She said, I'm just beyond excitement. And she began to clap like this. So I'm standing.
You're standing in the room of 60 people.
I'm standing in the room with 60 people, and I've just been given this message, and Grace is clapping loudly, and it feels surreal to me. And what happened next blew me away. The entire audience begins to clap and cheer. It was so I'm aware that right now I'm absorbing this energy that feels so powerful. It's so affirming. It's building courage and strength in me to do what I feel that I have to do and must do. There is no doubt. And I'm being seen and heard. I'm being witnessed by all these people who most of them don't know me. As I sat down from that, my whole body was vibrating. And I was still processing it because this was the last thing I expected. I didn't know that I'd be asked to stand up, and I didn't know that I'd be asked to say what my passions were. But nonetheless, it began a journey for me. A journey which a year and a half later, I have moved more fully into. So that night was about courageous living. It was courageous living in yelling my name out in the most aggressive way I've ever yelled it, in front of people who I had a past with who were sitting in front of me, and in exposing what turns me on, what my passions are, in front of a large group. So that night set off a chain of events that are continuing now.
Really?
Yes.
So what happened when you went home?
When I went home, I journal every single day. I probably have hundreds of journals. And I wrote down exactly what happened in the session. I wanted it burned in my memory. I wanted the words that Grace said. I wanted the sensations that I felt in my being, where I was witnessed by so many people and where I stood and spoke the truth. So after I went home, the next day I went to the Athletic Club Northeast, where I've been a member for like 40 years. And what you didn't know was about a month prior, I asked if I could lead a class, and I called it Fearless Living at that point. And I said, I'd like to create the class each month. I'll research it, and I'll draw on my experience of 33 years of inner growth. And those kinds of classes were never taught at the club. It's an athletic
Yes, it
place.
is.
So the manager at the time, Brandy, said, Joy, I'd like to hear more about it. I'm very open to that.
Really?
So after discussion, we put out an outline of how I was to go around to the classes and stand up in front of every exercise class and say what courageous living, which it's now called, because I didn't want the fear in the title. I wanted powerful words in the title. But I explained what courageous living means, how we can take any block that is keeping us from fully living or fully expressing ourselves and move through it with understanding, with teachings, with practice. So last year, I taught 11 different modules. Once a month, I would pick a module that was an aspect of courageous living, and I taught a morning class and then again at night, the same one, so people could come from work. And I made it purely a love offering. I didn't accept anything beyond their attendance. It was a gift from my heart and my spirit as I was creating the module.
I'm speechless. How is it received? Do you get time to get feedback from the people who are experiencing what you're putting out there?
I do get time. And on the first class, number one was, what is fear? And we explored all kinds of fear. So partway during the class, I said, list one thing down that you would like to work on, whenever you come. Put it down. So I made a list of all the people and some of the fears that they wanted to move through. Like, for example, one mother said, I wish I had the confidence to take my daughter on a road trip. And another male said, I wish I had the confidence to write a book and take action steps in making that happen. And I had another woman say, I wish that I had more confidence at work because I realized that I kind of hold back. So I made a list of those. And the nature of this class, because it was so new, it wasn't a registered class. You could come in anytime you wanted. So somebody might come 3 classes and then be away on vacations. And I was also allowed to invite people from outside of club membership.
Really?
Yes. So a variety of people came to a variety of topics. And the testimonials that were written at the end from those who were the more steady participants talked about how it gave them hope in their life, the hope and the knowledge that they could change what they believed and how they responded to life, and how they had gained an understanding of how the mind and the body and the spirit work, and how the conscious and the unconscious work, and how the ego works. It was just an unfolding. And each time I taught a class, I had to face my own courageous steps, because everything was new for me. All of these steps were new. And I remembered so clearly Grace saying, just start, they will come. Just start, they will come.
But so my rational head, I'm hearing you, and I'm like brought to tears. I'm getting goosebumps. But like so many times I've heard people, they just started. They just up and went, but nothing ever happened. They put all their money into it and nothing happened. They marketed, they put their blood and their soul, and nothing ever happened. And so to hear you say, Grace was like, you just go. Everybody's going to come. It makes me question, more accurately, that thing of destiny again, that whole, being in your truth and in your river of energy, because once you step into it, life does just, it unfolds.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So before I get into the how, I liked how the word courageous embodies healing.
Yes.
Embodies like a therapeutic understanding of one's whole self.
Yes.
It wasn't,
definitely.
Because before, if somebody were saying you were courageous, to me it would kind of hold something different.
Yes.
And then as you're talking about it and hearing the everyday fears and needs of the everyday person, we're not alone in these things.
We are not alone in our fear. It is part of the human experience. We fear that which we don't understand. We fear that which our ancestors feared. We fear what society has taught us to fear. We get wrapped up in the fear, especially now more than ever. Fear is rampant. And more than ever, courageous living is a necessity. It's not even a luxury. Right.
It's needed.
It's very much needed. So helping people find their true voice, the voice of the heart that is guiding us to step up now, not yesterday and not 5 weeks from now, but to step up now and become aware of what gift that's internalized, that only each individual person has the ability to give the world. So discover the gifts and then take some action steps. It might be making a phone call one day. That might be the big action step for the day. And then the next day it might be, well, let me go check out this place that Joy talks about, the Center for Love and Light. It might be just walking in the door and checking it out. That's a courageous step. And courage is incremental. It starts with one baby step at a time.
And it's always like that, isn't it?
It is always
It's always
like that.
one baby step after the
Yes. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming. Let me just share one experience that put me over the edge. About 3 years ago, I was attending the Spiritual Living Center. This is a place where I learned that the divine dwells within, rather than my previous teachings where I assumed God or the divine or spirit was somewhere out there. Yes, out there. And it is out there, but it's also here. Okay, so at the Spiritual Living Center, there was a big gala triumph dinner and dance, and it was a fundraiser. The fundraiser was selling tickets for a raffle, which was 7 days in a Tuscan villa. So I bought a ticket and I attended the big gala at the Atlanta History Center. It was dining and dancing. At the very end of the evening, Reverend David takes the big bowls with all the raffle tickets and he pulls out the name and he looks in the microphone. He talks to the microphone, but he looks on my side of the room and he says, "I am so glad they are here tonight, but it's really her that I love." Well, when he said those words, I assumed a couple had won the raffle because he said, "I'm glad they were here." So I tuned out completely and I picked up the program for the evening and I even turned away from the mic and I'm reading, just the different aspects of the menu of the program. In some far off corner of my mind, I know that when he said the winner is Joy Goodman, I know I must have heard it, but my human self did not register it, so I was still deep in looking at the program until people started pummeling on my back. And I said, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" "Joy, you won." I said, "What?" "Yes." And I made them promise 5 times before I went to the mic. I said, "If you're joking with me, I don't want to go up to the mic and be a fool. Are you sure I won?" "Joy, we're sure." So I went up to the microphone to accept the key to a Tuscan villa, and I am totally altered. And you know how on the Oprah show when her guests are given like big cars and big extravagant gifts, what are the 3 words they all say? "Oh my God." I swore I would never say those in public if I won something, and those were the first words. Yeah, they literally melted out of my mouth. So I'm invited to step up to the microphone and share, a few words. And I'm telling the audience that Under the Tuscan Sun was my favorite movie, and it was about a woman who stepped into a new life, and that's what this felt like to me. Okay, right after I won, I could feel elation fill my being. The elation was the knowledge that deep inside of my unconscious mind, I had abundance. I had the belief of abundance because I wouldn't have won that trip had I not already believed that I could have good things. But underneath that level was a fear and a terror that I could feel building within me. And that fear and that terror was an ancestral pattern of fear that had been passed down to me for generations. My mother, when she was 4 years old, and her 4 siblings and her mother lived in Poland. And it was the time when the Bolsheviks were killing Jewish people, who were Jewish, and burning their homes. So my mother, as a young child, experienced huge terror and life-threatening circumstances. So when she came over to America, she was just 4 years old. And that fear and that anxiety and that pressure that she felt was never treated. So as a mother, she raised me. Raised me with the energy of fear. She would speak it, but more than that, she would embody it, and I absorbed it. Because I was the young girl at home, I absorbed it. So the fear that she talked about was you can't trust people. It's not safe to go anywhere in the world. You have to stay quiet so you're not noticed. It was all the things that she had experienced as a child. So now that I've won this trip, I can take 3 people to go with me if I choose for this villa. And so I'm even worried about that. Who do I take? How do I choose? Who will want to go or who will be upset if they're not invited? Okay, so what happened shortly after the winning is someone noticed that I was really overwhelmed by the thought of winning this trip. She was Lane Morgan. And she said, "Joy, I know you're excited, but I sense that you're overwhelmed." And I said, "Yes, I don't know where to begin. I'm totally overwhelmed." So I decided because she was so perceptive that I would see her in some coaching. I would go for monthly coaching to help me address this glob of fear that was blocking this huge, beautiful opportunity that I wanted so much, but I had doubts that I could create it, that I could actually follow through.
Yes.
So probably 6 months into that part of the journey, I began to hear the still voice that I'm now very used to hearing. It's the inner whisper that guides me. And the voice said, Joy, this is not about taking anybody to Italy. This is about you going alone, because you have to move through the fear of the ancestors and whatever fear that has been in your own life. And I remember when I heard that voice for the first time, I said, no, you're asking way too much of me. I can't do that. That's too big. It's just too big. So I would be terrified at the thought of it, and I kept pushing the thought away. But nonetheless, the voice kept telling me that. So in order to get clear, I began doing rituals in a monthly tribe group that I'm part of. We do rituals where we can expose our vulnerabilities, our raw self, and this is a group where people gather. It's 15 people or so commit to a year.
Is it men and women?
It's men
Is it
and
all
women.
Ages and
It's all ages. The youngest probably was 20, 21, and the oldest was probably in the late 70s. But David Joy leads these groups. And
lots of joy.
Yeah, lots of joy around. So I did rituals around my fear and around releasing it. For example, the one experience where, I was standing straight up and then people behind me were there ready to catch me, but I had
fall.
the trust fall. So it was.
I try
like
that with Jesse every now and then, but
hey Jesse,
sometimes
did
he
you
doesn't
do
catch
it?
me.
Uh oh.
Can't do it with me. It's like a sequoia falling down.
So the day came after an exercise class where David Joy, this mentor, was the only one in the room with me. And I said, David Joy, do you really think that I can take this journey by myself? And it was the 10-year-old inside of me asking, because she was terrified. And she kept saying, Joy, I know you can do it. I'm positive you can do it. I said, okay. I said, let's raise our hands in the air and you put your hands against mine. So we were standing like this, and I said, I, Joy Goodman, in the presence of this witness, do promise to the divine spirit within me and all around me that I, Joy Goodman, am going solo to Italy. And I knew once I made that vow that I couldn't turn back, because I would never break something that I've sworn to or made a vow to. And that's when the magic began to happen, Jamie. That's when people came out of the woodwork to assist me. So I was going to go for 2 weeks now. Since I'm going for one, I may as well go for 2 weeks. People would say, Joy, I used to be a travel agent. I can come over and help you create a plan for your travels. Or, Joy, I'd like you to come to this Italian event next. It was actually for the holidays. People who come there are mostly Italian. But Americans or people come who want to learn Italian, come with me. So I kept saying yes. And that was already the starting of courage, saying yes to whoever came my way. And I also wanted to be witnessed on a bigger level. So at the Spiritual Living Center on 2 Sunday mornings, I stood before the congregation and I shared the journey of my terror. And I said, I know I've won and I'm very thrilled about going to Italy, but I'm facing a lot of fear. I'm facing a lot that I have to release and move through. And I said, but I see the light. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is my freedom, and freedom is pulling me. So I wanted them to see what I was like before I went.
Do you find it extremely valuable now to talk about the journey of the terror? Because I think most of our culture just focuses on being happy and talking about the journey of our joy, and that's what we need to be looking at. But I've never heard somebody say, I stood up and I talked about my journey, which is normally a companion kind of a thing. My journey. It's not my wound, it's not my injury, it's my journey with Tara. I've never heard that put together before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, facing the terror within is the ticket for freedom. I get emotional because I believe this so much. My life has transformed over and over and over and over again because I have continually faced my fears. And let me just share this. When my daughter was 3 months old, I had a single daughter, Polly. She was just 3 months old, and I felt that my mothering didn't feel right. It felt like something was off. And I had some bit of awareness that, oh, maybe it was the way I was mothered. I'm just giving that, and I wasn't mothered in a healthy way. So I heard myself in a room by myself say these words out loud. I said, I'm going to go into therapy. I'm going to face everything that was ever passed down to me that's not for the highest and best good. I'm going to work at this, and I will stay at it until I've healed everything that isn't great or isn't the truth, because the buck stops with me. I don't want to pass this on to my daughter. And that included everything that I was raised with, but it included generations far earlier, 7 years earlier.
How did you even think to say something like
I don't.
that? Was it
That was a
given
shock
to
to
you,
me.
or-
No, that was a shock. I heard myself say it, and I'm wondering, where did that come from? So I believe I was hardwired in this lifetime to do this kind of work. That's the only thing I can make sense of. This was predestined, perhaps.
Yes, the question I was going to ask before, the kind of how.
Yes.
How do you feel now, or how do you communicate with that inner voice now that this has happened? Like the acknowledgement of where you need to be, like you fully stepped into it. How has that changed?
I am saying yes. Every time I hear a whisper, Joy, it's time for you to have a courageous women's support group in your home. You do? Okay. How am I supposed to do that? But I hear it. Joy, you're ready to see individual clients one-on-one. I am? Okay. How am I supposed to do that? Yes, I will do it. And so then I asked for the guidance. How is it I'm supposed to make this happen?
How it's so amazing when you ask for the guidance.
Yes.
It shows up.
Yes.
Like it's not like a human experience where we're timid. Like a human may not be consistent 100% all the time.
That's
We
right.
ebb and we flow. But energy and spirit, they say, we're going to support you. It's time that they are always there.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Wonderful.
So I have a whole band of people, angels, guides, teachers, masters, my higher self, the divine always. I'm never alone. And so when I say, this is a big one, I really need your help, I'm feeling nervous. You know, when I spoke recently, this past Sunday, to a women's group, I still had some anxieties. But they weren't founded on truth. I knew that I had the experience. I knew that I know my experience better than anyone and that I can speak about it. So it was just about letting go of my ego, you know, wanting to impress people or wanting them to see me in certain ways. And so I constantly have to surrender. I surrender this over. It's not my truth.
Yeah.
That's not the truth of who I really am. I invite the truth of my authentic self to fully express.
Do you now do the private sessions?
I
and
do.
the group sessions in your home?
I do.
How are they going?
It's just, I cry at most of them because the beauty is so amazing. One client who has recently come to see me, I have cried at every one of her sessions. I don't mean to, but I'm overwhelmed in my heart. She didn't recognize her inner beauty. It's like she didn't have a clue about it because of her upbringing. And her upbringing included a mother who constantly put her down. So she didn't have this belief in herself. She had this unworthiness that I had growing up because my mother also didn't believe that she herself was worthy. So I know what it feels like to come from a place of not feeling good enough, not being enough, not feeling worthy, thinking, I'm separate from the world, something's flawed within me, I'm the only one that's this way. I know all of those things because I lived it. But I also know the truth of it because for 33 years of deep inner work, spiritual awakening, expansion, facing fears, I've come to know the truth. And the truth is we're brilliant lights inside. We're perfect just the way we are. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Lumineers.
Yes. So this woman that I'm telling you about, she is starting to unfold in the fastest ways. It's happening very quickly. It turns out she's intuitive. It turns out someone gave her a picture and said, I just want you to look at the picture. Tell me what you see about this particular person in the picture. And she took a deep breath. She disengaged from her ego, as she tells me, and she went into a quiet space, and this information started pouring out. And so she shared it to the person whose daughter was in this picture. He said, yes, all of what you just said was true. So she's uncovering. First we discover, it's a discovery process. Hey, really, am I more than what I thought I am? And then it's uncovering the layers that have covered us up. And then it's actually the recovery stage where we know what's there. And now we're pushing aside anything that gets in the way. So her life is transforming, absolutely transforming.
I love hearing the excitement under your voice.
I know, it makes me so happy to help anybody move through any old beliefs that never were true. We take beliefs about ourselves from when we were 6 years old as the gospel, and we live that false life the whole time. For example, when my brother was born, the doctor told my mother she could never have more children after his birth. Oh. So for 12 years, nothing happened. I was an unexpected event. And so they named me Carol Joy. So I became the queen. I was the center of attention. When my sister was born, unexpectedly, my mother was now 40. And back in the day, that wasn't considered safe.
Yes.
When she was born, I didn't have any preparation. I didn't have the awareness to my best belief that my mother was pregnant. So when this new being came into the household, I took on the false belief, I must not be good enough anymore. They're replacing me. And I began to lose confidence in the joyful being that I was. And I began to see this new person who had arrived as having something that I didn't. And I lived by that belief, I can't tell you, for the longest time. And it wasn't true.
Do you help people discover this
Yes.
when you're working with them?
Yes. Yes, I do. And I help them get aware of the chatter that they're saying about themselves. And the chatter is, I'm not good enough, or look at that person, look how they do it, I can never do it.
Yeah, it can be really mean.
It's really mean. And then I tell them when your belly contracts and you get a lump in your throat from what this voice has just told you, those are signs that that's your ego. But when you say something that feels good and you feel warm inside, that's your spirit, that's your heart guiding you.
So how do you, last thing before we have to say goodbye, but Joy, how do you tell someone, I spoke to a spirit and the spirit kind of pushed the button or reminded me and I began from there? Like, is that, if people say, how'd you start out? What made you? Just for entertainment value, I think, because a lot of the language in our culture doesn't really support the whole, I had a spiritual awakening or I had a moment with the spirit.
Doesn't.
And this allowed me to make my changes.
Yes.
People just kind of check out. They're
They
like,
do.
oh, you're one of those. Okay,
Right.
thanks, Joy.
Right. Exactly.
Because, in looking at you, you are so grounded. Your energy is gorgeous.
Thank you.
It is bright blue and purple
Cute.
and lots of yellow, which is knowledge and helping
Oh.
and brightness. Yes, it's really nice to see.
Thanks.
And to hear the joy come out of your language, your excitement. But like if, I wouldn't know what to do if someone with that energy then started talking to me about a spiritual experience. I'd be like, whoa, 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 what?
Yes.
Are you about to preach to me? Like, because you're not that way.
Right.
How do you handle it?
You know, what I have found is that when I'm just honest, and they also hear the sharing of how my life has changed, they begin to look more at who I am as a person and what I've created in my life from where I started in my life. And that intrigues them. That is the hook. If it's possible for me, Joy Goodman, to be where I am today on the Jamie Butler Lighter Side show, you couldn't have told me that when I was a teen, or I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't be good enough to be on Jamie's show. But now it's different. It's an evolution. That's what people really look at now. Not the fact that I have inner voices that guide me, not the fact that I like getting information through Grace. It's more than that. It's more, they see that my life has changed. They see the goodness and the joy within me, and they hear me openly talk about my challenges, the new ones.
Yeah, it's amazing. I like it
Thank
a lot.
you.
All right, I lied. I actually have one more question.
Okay.
I just came to my head, really.
I like honest people. So you're truthful.
Yes, I enjoy that a lot too. The sessions that you do,
Yes.
do you provide them long distance, like phone or Skype?
Well, I guess your spirit telling me that would be a good opportunity. So yes, from now on I will. From now on I will.
I feel like we just won something very big, Lumineers. Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful because our community is so
Lumineers.
expansive, and to have
Yes.
someone understand
Yes.
the companionship with the fear, the terror,
Yes.
and being courageous with all the spiritual undertones as being totally normal and natural, that is unique. I mean, that is special. That is something that, for me, I believe fills our community.
Yes.
So I would
Yes.
wanted to know if you were available to people who aren't here
Yes.
in Atlanta, Georgia.
I am.
Yay!
I am. And I gave you my website, which is under construction. Did I?
It's coming out soon.
Oh, Jamie,
and
thank you.
We'll post the website and the emails again, and thank you. Thank you, because I rarely get to hear the rest of the story. I had no idea Grace made you
Yes.
stand up
Yes.
and put you as a spectacle.
Yes.
That's not what I've ever heard Grace doing.
Yes.
So just to hear the relationship that you have with her, and it's all so new, it kind of fills in the holes.
Wow.
It's nice.
So this is here for you as an affirmation that even though you don't know what's going on in the channelings, many people, including the friend that came with me, many people receive great openings that night and a push. And when they're ready, those seeds are there. They don't go away. When they're ready, they too will open up to share whatever gift they've come into. But you are a force, you are a power, and you are bringing love and light beyond Atlanta, way beyond. And I've talked about you so much for so long. So the words just ripple out. Good energy ripples out. And that's what I focus on, is the good energy and the love energy and the light energy. And you are a beam, a huge beam.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was a wonderful surprise. Thank you for keeping it a secret. I can't believe you guys really did that, but this was wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Lumineers, thank you for watching. And remember, it's not woo-woo.
It's true.
It is.
It is.
Side.